Who are the top 100 most valuable Championship youngsters? Let's find out. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. I'm really excited to get into this one. Now, this is going to be split over two videos. Today, we're going to be counting down from 100 to 50 in terms of the most valuable Championship youngsters. If you want to see part 2, where we count down from 50 to the most valuable youngster, get this video up to 300 likes and we'll release part 2. To formulate these transfer values, we're going to be going off Transfermarkt's valuation of all these youngsters. To qualify for the video, you need to be 22 or younger, and we are going to be including loan players who have been playing in the Championship for this season. Without any further ado, let's jump into this one. Starting out at number 100, that goes to Cardiff City's Mark Harris. Now, he'll be looking to nail down a starting spot for Cardiff going into next season. He scored 3 goals and got 1 assist in 647 minutes for Cardiff this year. 99 goes to Nnamdi Afobre. The Bournemouth youngster who's been out on loan at Wycombe this season has actually agreed a pre-contract at Rangers, and so will be playing for the Scottish champions next season. Number 98 goes to Norwich City's Melvin City. Now, he's still really waiting for his breakthrough at Norwich City. They signed him in January 2020 over from France, and since then has mostly been playing development football. 97 goes to Blackburn Rovers' John Buckley. Really excited to see how he does going into next season, especially with Blackburn moving on to some of their other midfielders. I think that John Buckley really could get his chance there next season. He averages more progressive passes into the final third than any other Blackburn player this season. 96 goes to Sheffield Wednesday's Liam Shaw, who has actually agreed a pre-contract with Celtic, and so we'll be playing his football in Scotland going into next season. Number 95 goes to Barnsley's Ben Williams. Unfortunately for him, he's been out for the past 7 to 9 months with an ACL injury, but prior to that does look like a really promising player. Number 94 goes to Rotherham United's Victor Johansson. A really good Championship goalkeeper, I have to admit, and despite Rotherham being relegated this season, he's been a real standout performer in that area. 93 goes to Coventry City's Josh Reed. They signed him in the most recent January transfer window. He came over from Ross County. Number 92 goes to Nottingham Forest Alex Mighten. In what has been a pretty uninspiring season on the whole for Forest, the breakthrough for Alex Mighten has certainly been one of the high points, with 3 goals and an assist to his name. Really exciting player at only 19 years old. Number 91 goes to Wycombe's Dennis Adeniran, the midfielder who's been out on loan from Everton this season. Number 90 goes to Barnsley's Rommel Palmer. They picked him up a couple of years ago from the Manchester City Youth Academy and has since gone on to do really well for Barnsley. Playing in the centre of midfield, he's got plenty of minutes for them this season. Number 89 goes to Huddersfield Town's Romani Edmonds-Green. Now, thanks to a few of the defensive injuries that Huddersfield have had at the back this season, that's given some of their youngsters more of an opportunity to play this season. He's had 16 starts and 8 appearances off the bench. Also scored on the last day of the season for Huddersfield against Reading as well. 88 goes to another Barnsley youngster. There's going to be a few on today's video. That goes to Toby Civic. Done really well whenever he's featured for Barnsley this season. Got quite a bit of pace about him, which makes him quite useful in the back line. 87 goes to Bournemouth goalkeeper Mark Travers. He spent the second half of this season out alone at Swindon. 86 goes to Huddersfield Town's Jaden Brown, who actually now finds himself as a free agent. Very interesting to see where he ends up next. He had a fairly promising start to his Huddersfield Town career last season, but this time round, after being behind Harry Toffolo in the pecking order, they found his chances quite tough to come by. 85 goes to Barnsley's Clark Adore. Now, he's not featured all too much for Barnsley this season, just making the 5 starts, but he'll go down long in the memory of Barnsley fans after scoring that dramatic last-minute goal to keep them up last season. Number 84 goes to Norwich City's Ballymumba. His only start of the season actually came at Deepdale away to Preston, where I thought he did a fairly good job, to be fair to him, and at only 19 years old. Daniel Farker is a manager who puts a lot of trust in young players, so you definitely say that Norwich is the right place for him to be in terms of his development. 83 goes to Reading's Lewis Gibson. He's been on loan from Everton this season. Certainly had some tough moments, I think it's fair to say, and he'll see this season at Reading, his first season at Championship level, as a learning curve. 82 goes to Norwich City's Sebastian Soto. Since arriving at Norwich, has mostly been playing development football. He did have a loan spell out to Holland in the first half of this season, where he did fairly well for Telstar, scoring 7 goals in 12 appearances. 81 goes to Huddersfield Town's Ryan Schofield. I think he's had a bit of a tough time this season in terms of the defensive protection that's been in front of him. You know, he's a young goalkeeper who's been thrown in at the deep end with Huddersfield this season, who have ultimately gone on to concede more goals than any other Championship side this season. Given more years of development, though, there is a goalkeeper there who's maybe just not quite ready for that level yet. Number 80 goes to Brentford's Mads Roerselev. He's done fairly well for Brentford, actually, since they moved to that 3 at the back system. He's tried to make that sort of right wing-back role into his own. He was originally signed for Brentford's B team, after doing well in that setup, got promoted to the main team. 79 goes to Birmingham's Riley McGree, who's been on loan there this season. He's an interesting one because he started out really quite well at Birmingham. He scored away at Deepdale towards the start of the season, and then out of nowhere was just dropped for absolutely ages. Since Lee Bowyer has come in though, he's been given more opportunities, and it'll be interesting to see if he does return to Birmingham next season. 78 goes to Barnsley defender Jordan Williams. The majority of his minutes so far this season have come off the bench, with 7 starts and 14 appearances from the bench. And number 77 also goes a Barnsley way to Apo Hallam, who's been a little bit unlucky this season with injuries, hasn't he? But when he has featured, he's done fairly well. Quite versatile in the roles he can play, sort of anywhere across the back line or even in midfield, where we've seen him at times this season. Watford's Filip Steparovic comes in as number 76, who seemingly has just disappeared off the face of the earth this year. We've not heard anything about him lately, have we? Number 75 goes to Preston North End's Tom Bayliss, who has had a fairly tough time since coming over to Deepdale. I can't lie about that. His minutes under Alex Neil especially were fairly limited. He'll be hoping going into next season under Frankie McAvoy that he'll get a bit more of a chance in the first team. 74 goes to Stoke City's Alfie Doherty, still waiting to make his Stoke debut after making the move from Charlton over in January, but certainly from his Charlton days, really promising player. 73 goes to Barnsley's Herbie Kane. He made the move over from Liverpool this summer. Number 72 goes to Reading defender Tom McIntyre. Despite being out injured since March with I think a knee injury, he's had a really good season for the Royals this time round. Number 71 goes to Brentford midfielder Jan Zambarek. He spent a part of this season out on loan to Shrewsbury in League One. Number 70 goes to Rotherham's George Hurst. He's been on loan from Leicester this season and ultimately had a bit of a disappointing campaign, to be honest with you. Now, the vast majority of his minutes came on as a substitute. He made 27 appearances off the bench for Rotherham this season, but didn't hit the back of the net, and ultimately as a striker, that's what you're going to be judged on. Number 69 goes to Victor Gyökeres, another loanee to the Championship this season, who's had a bit of mixed fortune, to be honest with you. That initial loan spell he had out on loan to Swansea really didn't work out, and it'll be interesting to see if Coventry go back in for him next season. Number 68 goes to Reading's Thomas Holmes. Now, a lot of the time when we speak about Reading, we speak about sort of their attacking prowess and some of their silky players going forward, but a lot of credit needs to go to some of their younger defenders who have really had to step up this season, obviously one of them being Thomas Holmes. Number 67 goes for Bristol City's Tariq Bakinson. In what has been a really disappointing campaign for Bristol City, Bakinson has been one of the more positive notes to end the season on. Obviously, he's got an absolute rocket in his locker in terms of scoring goals from range, and he'll be someone who they're looking to maybe build around going forward. Number 66 goes to Rotherham United's Ben Wiles, who's played absolutely all over for Rotherham this season, whether it be at fullback, all across the midfield, or as a winger. 65 goes to Reece Norrington Davis. He's had a couple loan spells out to the Championship this season. The first half of the season spent on loan at Luton, the second half of the season out on loan at Stoke. Well, Sheffield United now being back in the Championship for next season, he may get his chance there. Number 64 goes for Watford midfielder Tom Dele-Bashiru. He's really been unlucky with an injury this season, because Watford dropping down to the Championship was perhaps a good opportunity for him to really break into that first team, but thanks to injury, he's only had 2 appearances for Watford this season. Another player who's been out with injuries recently has been Stoke City's Tashan Oakley-Booth. He comes into the list next. The majority of his appearances so far this season have come off the bench for Stoke. Number 62 goes for Preston North End's Jason Malumbi, who's been on loan from Brighton this season. Feel a little bit bad for him, to be honest with you, because his opportunities have been quite few and far between, and you can tell that there's obviously a very good player there. You know, he was fantastic from his days at Millwall, and Brighton clearly rate him very highly. It's just at Preston, he's not really had the opportunities to really break into that side this season. Number 61 comes in as Birmingham's Jonathan Lecco. Now, obviously, I've not made this list. We're going off Transfermarkt's evaluations of all these players here, but Jonathan Lecco, albeit still a very young player, who's really struggled for Birmingham this season, hasn't he? 15 starts, 19 appearances off the bench, still yet to score in the league for them. Number 60 goes to Swansea's Jan Dander. I think typical sort of young attacking midfielder, can drift in and out of games, but he does certainly have his moments of quality every now and again. Number 59 goes to another Swansea player. That's for Morgan Whittaker. His only goal this season came against his former club Derby this season, which I think it's fair to say he enjoyed that one. Number 58 goes to Preston North End's Emil Reece-Jacobson. Started out brilliantly for North End in terms of stretching the line, getting in behind. He's got all the sort of physical characteristics to be a top striker at this level. It's just that one part of the season his confidence seemed to go, and he's not really been able to recapture that since. But heading into next season, I know that I'm with a lot of North End fans who still have very high hopes for Jacobson. Number 57 goes to Sheffield Wednesday's Andre Green. I'm interested to see what happens with Green going into next season, because since leaving Villa and a few of the loan spells that he had towards the end of his Villa career, he sort of struggled to nail down a starting spot wherever he's been. him. So it'll be interesting to see if he does stick it out with Wednesday. Joe Rankin Costello comes in at number 56, another quite promising player that Blackburn have got coming up through their ranks at the moment. I think they've just triggered the option for his contract to have another year on it. So yeah, Blackburn definitely one team to watch out for in terms of quite a few promising young players. Norwich City's Josh Martin comes in as number 55. Now he had quite a few appearances for Norwich in and around that sort of Christmas period when a few of the injuries were building up for Norwich, and I think that it's probably likely that going into next season he's going to get a loan move out somewhere, but only 19 years old. Definitely showing flashes of quality so far for Norwich. Number 54 goes to Stoke City's Josh Tymon, the fullback who has played quite a bit of football for Stoke this season. Lovely assist he got for that Matondo goal at Nottingham Forest away. Brilliant ball across the pitch. Derby County's Benny Benangami comes in as number 53. He's been on loan from Everton in the second half of the season, although hasn't really played all too much football for Derby this season due to injury. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him out on another loan spell in the Championship next season. Number 52 goes to Middlesbrough's Hayden Coulson. I'm interested to see what the future holds for him. He sort of played all over for Middlesbrough this season, but has never been able to nail down a starting spot in any of those positions. Borough fans, where do you think he's best used? And number 51 goes to Cardiff City's Jordi Asai Tutu, who has been on loan from Arsenal this season. Now, unfortunately for the youngster, missed a large chunk of this season due to, I think it was a hamstring injury, wasn't it? So yeah, the right back's had some good games this season, but has ultimately only made the 6 starts for Cardiff thanks to that injury. But there we have it, guys. That will wrap it up for part 1 of this series. If you want to see part 2, where we count down the 50 best Championship youngsters from number 50 to number 1, get this video to 300 likes and we'll release part 2. Some top players mentioned in that video, which I'm sure a lot of you are excited to see. Well, overnight, that will now wrap it up for today's video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Like I said, we're trying to push out the daily uploads at the moment, and your support has been absolutely mental on them lately. So continue sharing it with the likes. Do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content as well. Check out the Patreon link down below. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.